Okay, it is May 25th. Best ball season is in full swing, and right now really is the best time to draft your best ball rosters because as soon as news starts leaking, players' ADPs are going to jump like crazy, players' ADPs are going to fall like crazy, and you might not get those big steals that you would have gotten had you drafted today. It's all about finding who's going to outperform their ADP, that average draft position, and avoiding those players who are going to underperform their ADP. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. But before we get into it, do me a solid, hit that like and subscribe, and we're going to go ahead and talk about it. So the first player that I'm definitely dodging is Kyren Williams. I know he had a great season last year. He had over 1,000 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, 32 receptions. But I'm skeptical about him this year. He's currently going in the second round. He's projected to be the RB7, and I just don't know that he's going to live up to that. There's a few things that give me pause. Number one, the Rams general manager, Les Snead, straight up said in an interview that they drafted Blake Corum so that they don't totally run down Kyren Williams. That should give everybody pause right there, because that strongly suggests that Kyren Williams is going to be entering some sort of timeshare. And as that's becoming more and more prevalent throughout the league, we have to find those bell cow backs. And if I'm using my second round draft pick on a running back, it better be a true number one bell cow back. And I just don't think that Kyren Williams is going to be that this year. Also, if you look at Blake Corum, his stats are impressive. He ran a little bit quicker 40 time than Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams had a 4.65. Blake Corum runs a 4.53. Blake Corum's 3-cone drill is 6.82 seconds, which is pretty impressive. He bodes a very, very similar body style to Kyren Williams. I think there's only about a 5-pound difference between them. So Kyren Williams could lose some of those touchdowns to Blake Corum. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see that. So while I would fade Kyren Williams, I would highly recommend taking a risk on Blake Corum. Again, he's currently going 130th overall, projected as the RB40. I think he'll be able to outperform that. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 15 running back, but in the game of looking for who's going to outperform their ADP, Blake Corum is an excellent candidate for that. Now, the next running back who I'm looking at that could vastly outperform their ADP is Kimani Vidal. I've been bullish on this kid since he performed at the Combine. He ran a 4.46 40, had a 7-second flat cone, and he's currently going 171st overall. That's the 15th round. That's when you are taking big swings and the pile is just as thin as it gets. If he's going 171st overall, that makes him RB53. Now, the Chargers, of course, they're going through some changes this year. Got rid of Eckler, got rid of Keenan Allen, brought in Jim Harbaugh, drafted a fantastic lineman early in the draft, and they brought in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Two huge names, no doubt. But the numbers that they're giving these players are not convincing. See, with fantasy, we always got to follow the money. If you look at the Saquon Barkley deal that he got with the Eagles, that was 3 years, $37 million, and the Eagles can't even cut him until 2026 without eating a ton of cap space. And on top of that, if they were to release him, if by chance things didn't work out, he'd have to be a post-June 1st candidate. So those kind of contracts show us that the Eagles have great faith in Saquon Barkley moving forward, and that he is going to be their guy. And it could be their remedy for the tush push, but that's another conversation. If we look at the contracts that the Chargers gave to Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, it doesn't look like they have a lot of faith in them. J.K. Dobbins' contract is 1 year, $1.2 million. Gus Edwards is 2 years, but it's split up with the second year taking on most of the cap space. This year he's only set to hit 2.2 million against the cap, but next year it's 6.5 million. However, if they choose to move on next year, they're going to recoup about 75% of their cap space with the way the deal is structured. So that contract gives them such a big out. It shows that they already have cold feet as it relates to Gus Edwards. Now, worth noting, neither of those veterans, Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins, have ever started more than 10 games in their NFL careers. Neither has ever broken 900 rushing yards, and both have very sketchy injury histories, unfortunately, right? J.K. Dobbins particularly, his always seemed to come up at the start of the season. He fractured his fibula in 2016 on his college opener. He tore his ACL and LCL in 2021. He tore his Achilles in week 1 last season. And while we never want to root for injuries, it is too big of a risk for us to draft them. Enter Kimani Vidal for the Chargers. Kimani Vidal boasts a low center of gravity. He's only about 5'8", 5'9", I believe. Very compact player. He has hands as well. He can catch the ball. Got just about 16, 17 receptions last season in college. And he averaged 11.2 yards per reception. Now, we know that Jim Harbaugh wants to establish the run and values O-line play like crazy. So Kimani Vidal there's a good chance that he could be his guy moving forward. Kimani Vidal had 1,600 rushing yards in his most recent year in college, 14 touchdowns, and played a very similar style to that of Blake Corum, who played under Jim Harbaugh, the new coach for the Chargers. So when we take all those things into account, and the fact that the capital we're having to give up is 171st overall in the 15th round, Kimani Vidal could be a steal, and at the very least, I strongly believe that he will outperform his ADP and his ranking at RB53. So look into Kimani Vidal. The next one we have is Tyrone Trace, going 180th overall. Last pick of the 15th round in 12-team formats. Projected to be RB56 for the New York Giants. Now, if you missed Tyrone Trace's combine, it was impressive. He ran a 4.48 40 time and had the best 3-cone drill at the entire combine. This guy is agile. He can move, he can make cuts, he can turn the speed on real quick. His main competition is Devin Singletary, who is of course replacing Saquon Barkley. Now, I've never understood people's adoration when it comes to Devin Singletary. He has never broken 1,000 rushing yards in any season. And much like Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, his contract doesn't suggest a ton of faith for the Giants. They gave him like a fill-in sort of contract. He's getting $3 million, which is respectable, but nothing close to what we see these people like Barkley signing for. Nothing like the Josh Jacobs contract. $3 million, they can move on from it. Now, with the Giants backfield, there is Eric Gray, who some people put as a dark horse candidate last year, and I would recommend if you're picking up Tyrone Trace, you can definitely pick up Eric Gray as well, because he's currently going in the 20th round if you want a little bit of an insurance policy. But I really do believe that come midway through the season, much like guys with Kimani Vidal, after a few games and little success, some of these teams are going to be looking to rotate some pieces. And Tyrone Trace at, again, RB56, 180th overall, is a great candidate to end up taking the starting job for the New York Giants. Now, the last player that I'm going to fade, and people are going to hate me for this, is Achane. Currently going 22nd overall, RB8. Now, I know that he had a 50-point game, a 30-point game, 2 20-point games, but let's contextualize that a little bit. The 50-point game was against Denver, that famous game where they were playing the safeties, 20 yards off the ball. And I know you can make the argument that, well, plenty of backs played against the Denver Broncos and did not put up as many points as Achane. But the reality is Achane had his concerning games as well. He averaged just 3 rushing yards per attempt against the Dallas Cowboys. He averaged 1.5 rushing yards against the Jets, a team that he will have to face twice this year. And most importantly, there's going to be a clear-cut timeshare when it comes to the Miami Dolphins this year. Raheem Mostert, though I think he's going to lose a little bit of playing time, is still on that team and does get a lot of the touchdowns. And the Dolphins also used a 4th-round pick on Jalen Wright. Now, a 4th-round pick could be betting for the future, but that's pretty good draft capital, and we know that this team has Super Bowl aspirations right here, right now, so I don't think that they're necessarily trying to draft exclusively for the future, but rather are looking for players who could potentially impact the game now. So between Mostert, Jalen Wright, and Achane, it looks like there's going to be a little bit of a 3-headed monster there. And even if Achane does become a true RB1, he's going to cede a lot of touches, and I just don't think that's a great formula for your 2nd-round pick in the draft. If Achane falls a little bit, 3rd round, 4th round, as the months go on and we get closer to the season, he could be a good candidate. Kind of a high ceiling candidate, a little bit of a risk, but could pay off. But in the 2nd round, I just don't think that it's a great idea right now, especially when you look at some of the players who are going right around those spots, even shortly after him. Mike Evans is right there, Travis Kelce's right there, Derrick Henry's right there. All much safer candidates. So for this moment, I'm going to fade Achane. All right. If you enjoyed this video, do me a solid, hit that like and subscribe. We're going to keep coming back with more of these takes. Who should we fade? Who should we draft like crazy? Where are we going to get the big gains? Thank y'all for watching. And again, please hit that like and subscribe.